Hello and welcome to day 5 of your Navigate Your Way to More Success. So today we're going to be exploring what success looks like. So far in our days together, we have learned how our thoughts, our feelings and our actions create our outcomes. And we have learned that we can influence our thoughts, our feelings and our actions to create better outcomes, the kind of outcomes that we want to create more success. So today we're going to be focusing on exploring what our success looks like. Your challenge for yesterday, for day 4, was to start to notice that besides money and career progress, what do you want from your work? What else do you want to get from your work? And to start to notice what other people seem to want to get from their work as well. All of this is going to help us to define what success looks like for you. Now, it's easy to say that success is this: happiness, togetherness, wealth, health, happiness. And maybe that is the meaning and the purpose of our lives, why we are here. But what actually do we mean by happiness, and how does happiness contribute to our wealth and our health? Because it does. Now, it may feel selfish to think about our happiness and to focus upon our needs in terms of defining our success. But in truth, we can't give with empty pockets. We can't give, we can't care as much with an empty heart. So if we are not happy, it taints all of our interactions with the people. So looking after our happiness is actually an act of generosity, because if you're the kind of person that I think you are, the kind of person who invests their time in doing this kind of self-development work, then I know that you will use your happiness to help more people and to help them more deeply as well. This selfishness, this need to be happy can be done in different ways, but one of the ways that many people try to do is by putting other people down. And the reason they do that is because temporarily it makes them feel better. It makes them think they look better or sound better when they put somebody else down. And that's because a lot of the way that we actually define success isn't like this. We actually define our success based on other people, using this model. So it's about this benchmark of success based on what other people are doing, how successful they appear to be. And it's not as unusual as you may feel having this benchmark of success based on other people, because that's how we have been brought up to this point, with our parents, with our teachers, with our managers, all trying to tell us, share, help us to decide what we should be, should have, and should be doing. So we're used to using this benchmark of success. And that will be based upon people that we know, people that we see on television, and increasingly people on social media. I mean, they are called and paid millions for being social media influencers, because they literally influence us by determining, or we determine, our level of success based upon them. So we have thoughts, we have feelings about how successful they are based on what we can see and based upon what we can hear, which is this. And then we define our success based around how we compare to them. So our success ends up being what I think about me based on what I think about other people. You can hear there's a lot of thinking there, not a lot of know, a lot of perception. But we all know in reality that what we see on social media is not the whole picture. We may see the prettiness, the laughter, we may see that they've got lots of money, but we also hear about the divorces, the breakups, the arguments they end up having with each other and with other celebrities. It's not all that we make it out to be. But when we do compare ourselves to other people, here's what happens. We say, oh, I'm more successful than that person, but I'm less successful than that person. And therefore, I probably should be doing this, I ought to do that, or I'm expected to do something else. We put these high standards on ourselves when we compare our success based on what we think is going on for somebody else. I love this saying, there is no failure, only feedback. There is no failure, only feedback. And if that were true, that would mean that we don't have to fear failing something. We don't have to fear trying something in case it fails. And you would see that with young children, we do this all the time. We try to protect them, of course, but we also encourage them to give things a go, to have a go at it, because we know that's the best way for them to learn. But as we get older, so many of us have had painful experiences that we stop trying. Now, when we look at our measure of success, we do this, we get our feedback, but actually our feedback is faulty if we're using our measure of success being the perception of other people. So when our perception of somebody else is our measure of success, our feedback is faulty because we're not getting the whole picture. We're only seeing what they choose to share, or maybe what the tabloids share about them as well. So we need to make sure that when we're giving this a go, when we're defining our success, we use our own benchmark of success. And that's based upon what feels good to us and what's important to us. So for using this benchmark, for creating our own benchmark of success, yes, of course, it needs to be aligned with society, aligned with the people. So when we go out into the world, it kind of makes sense and we do feel successful. So, but it enables us to define our own success. And we're going to use motivation as our framework for success, or at least that's my recommendation to you. Now, I would define success as the driving force to, motivation as the driving force to success. Or you might say motivation is the gateway to happiness. Motivation is the source of our energy. It's the thing that gets us up in the morning, and it determines whether we're enthusiastic, energetic, and resilient. Let's look at this in terms of performance, and indeed the performance triangle, because in life we all know that we need to be able to accomplish things, to achieve things, and to do that we have to perform. Most of our time is spent in the workplace, and performance is a key word in the workplace. In fact, they have key performance indicators, performance reviews, high performance. And in sport, we talk about elite performance and even performance enhancing drugs. Now, there are three elements to being able to perform. The first is a direction, so knowing what to do. The next is the skills, so having the capability and the resources to be able to do something. And the third, and arguably the most important, is the motivation. Now, you've seen this in action before. You may not have seen this model, but you have seen this in action before, because we all have. We get to the end of a long, busy, tiring day. We have our evening meal and the pots are on the side. Now, we know what to do. We know it might be put them in the dishwasher. It might be washing them up, or a combination of both. We definitely have the skills and the resources to be able to do it, but whether it gets done or not, whether we perform that task, depends upon our motivation. Do we have the energy, the desire to do it? And it's exactly the same thing about doing some exercise or going to the gym. You know, we know what to do, we have the capability to do it, but do we have the desire and the energy? So motivation is playing a part in your life already, so we can use that to use it for your measure of success. Now, I've worked with thousands of leaders, thousands of coaches, And I can tell you that motivation is the key to success, to unleashing that energy. And when you align what you're doing, your direction, so your career, the task that you're doing, with your motivation, the energy flows. It makes an enormous difference. Life gets so much easier, and then you go and gain the skills that you need because you're motivated to achieve it. It's that old saying, where there's a will, there's a way. Equally, we can align our motivation to our skills, and then you'll find a career where you can use your motivation and your skills. The most obvious ones are going to be singers, performers, IT engineers, and perhaps nurses. The skill, the capability, the desire came first. That desire to play, to tinker, to care, and to comfort all came first. The motivation, followed by learning the skill. Now, before we carry on, let's talk about money. I mean, money quite often is a bit of a dirty word, an unspoken thing, even though it's vitally important. Money is a given. We need it in all of our societies globally when we interact with other people, particularly outside of our family and our communities, because we need it to exchange. Money is a currency. It's a way of exchanging one thing for another. So it's also a measure of fairness within our work as well. So it's a given that you want to be fairly rewarded for the effort that you make, the energy, the contribution, the expertise and creativity that you have. It's also given that you want to be well paid for it, because money is not just about money. Money is also a provider of security, of freedom, of choices, of the ability to be able to be with our family, be with our friends, because we can afford to do things together, and to provide an education for our children and retirement funds. So it's a given that money is important and that you need to be fairly and ideally well rewarded. So I'm expecting that to be in your definition of success. So having said that, and having noted it's going to be in there as part of that wealth, let's go and back and have a look at motivation. And we're going to use Maslow's hierarchy of needs because it's the most well-known model of motivation globally. And I'm a senior practitioner of a tool called Motivational Maps, which uses and incorporates the knowledge of Maslow's hierarchy within it. And I have used that tool with leaders, coaches, trainers all around the world. And I know it makes a massive difference for them and for their teams and their clients, which is why I know that using motivation as definition for your success and the way to navigate for more success is going to work for you if you give it a go. And that's why you're here, right? Yeah? Now, the basic structure of Maslow's hierarchy is this pyramid. And alongside these layers, which have been expanded to fit in the 9 motivators of the motivational maps. Now, every person has their own unique profile of motivation. And that's why we make different decisions, why we follow different career paths as well, why something that I enjoy isn't necessarily something that you're going to enjoy. But within those unique motivation profiles, we all have the same core ingredients, the same 9 motivators. We call these the motivators of work, but we have them in different proportions and they're satisfied to different amounts, and they may mean slightly different things to each person as well. Like our RAS that we talked about earlier, our motivation is another filter on our thoughts and our feelings, and the one that is most aligned to determining our choices and our behaviour. So what we're going to do is go through Maslow's hierarchy of needs, go through these motivators. We're going to do it as an overview today, and we'll go into it in more detail tomorrow. And as I go through them and just start to describe them, just make a note, maybe jot it down on a piece of paper, which are the ones that seem to resonate with you in terms of what you want as part of your definition for success, and the ones that help you to feel happier especially in your work. Now with Maslow's hierarchy, we start at the bottom and with this grey layer. Now during the COVID-19 pandemic, it's these bottom layers that were most affected and massively affected globally. So we can see that with our biological and our physiological needs, the very need for air, the need for food, particularly when people started stockpiling food and it was hard to actually get what we needed. And then of course the uncertainty around our work security. Could we afford to carry on putting food on the table, to put a roof over our families' heads? All of these were of huge importance, huge concern during that pandemic. And of course, it's really important, we can see why. And that means that the next layer up was activated as well. Our pink safety needs, our defender motivator, which is all about needing some certainty, some security, some predictability. The next layer up, blue, about our belonging and our love needs, is our friend motivator. It's our need to belong, to feel connected, to feel involved. And with so many people during COVID-19 being in lockdown, unable to physically spend time with their family, but also their colleagues, again, this was massively affected. So we don't all want close friends at work. In fact, many people don't want friends at work because it clouds their judgment and their ability to make sound business decisions. But nevertheless, everybody needs some sense of being involved and some sense of belonging. Moving up, we have our yellow esteem needs. This is our star, director and our builder, with our needs to feel valued, accomplished and respected. And then our purple cognitive needs, our engagement with deep learning and enjoying being able to learn things, use that knowledge and demonstrate our expertise and mastery. And then as we move up to the top of Maslow's hierarchy, we have these blue motivators, which are all around innovation, change, improvements, and a desire to make a difference in this world. Now that was a quick run through, and hopefully you've picked up a few things along there which you've gone, actually, that one's important to me, that one's less important. And that's great. That's what our starting point for defining your measure of success. And as I say, tomorrow we'll go through it again in more detail. So your challenge for day 5 now is start to think more about what you enjoy doing at work. Now there's going to be some tasks, some activities, some projects that are a no-brainer for you. You're going to go, yep, I love doing those. Brilliant. Write those down, and also please be open-minded and aware that when you're doing something and you just feel in the flow, you're just enjoying it and you're not watching the time, that's also something that you enjoy doing. So notice what else you enjoy doing at work and write it down. And then, number 2, start to notice what makes those activities more or less enjoyable. So for example, it may be that you have some good feedback, so you're clear on what to do. It may be that you have more interaction, or it may be that you get some praise and some involvement as well, or you get to know you're making a difference. Start to notice what it is that makes them less and more enjoyable, and I will see you tomorrow.